It was 2:47 a.m. when Mark Collins took the wrong exit off I-40 near a stretch called Exit 17, barely lit, surrounded by nothing but sand, rusting signage, and darkness. He was driving through New Mexico on a solo trip back to Phoenix after visiting family in Amarillo, tired, hungry, and fighting the weight of his eyelids. Mark figured he'd pull over for a 10-minute nap. Parked on a barren service road where nothing moved except the occasional whisper of the wind. Over sand, the night was ink black. The stars above were thin and distant, and the only light came from the flickering amber of his dashboard. He locked the doors, reclined his seat, and closed his eyes. Tick, tick. The sound of the dashboard clock was oddly loud. He had only been out for a few minutes when something tugged him from shallow sleep. A tap, light, barely audible, but deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Mark opened his eyes and sat up. He looked around. The headlights were off. His dome light was off. His phone was face down, screen dark. He rubbed his eyes. Maybe it was just a wind or a figment of a dream. Then it came again, this time harder. Tap, tap, tap. From the driver's side window. He turned. Nothing. Not a shadow, not a figure. Just the outline of the desert, sparse cactus plants, and a road. Swallowed by night, his heart began beating faster. He leaned forward to squint into the darkness. Still nothing. He took a deep breath and adjusted the rearview mirror and froze. There, in the mirror, standing at the back of the car, something pale, human-shaped but not quite human. Too tall, too thin, no defining features. It stood motionless, about 10 feet away, directly in the center of the road. Mark turned to look out the rear windshield. No one was there, but in the mirror, the thing remained. Standing, still, watching. He stared at it, his breath shallow and erratic. He wanted to believe it was a hallucination, sleep deprivation maybe, but something about the way it didn't move, the way its limbs seemed to bend just wrong, filled him with a quiet panic. He started the engine. The creature didn't move. The mirror still showed it, but turning around, he saw only empty road. His headlights flicked on. Nothing was illuminated, but the rearview mirror still showed it, standing, faintly swaying. Mark didn't waste another second. He jammed the car into drive and sped down the narrow service road, tires kicking dust and pebbles into the air. He didn't stop to look back. He didn't dare. It wasn't until 10 minutes later, when he reached a gas station glowing like a sanctuary in the dark, that he felt safe enough to breathe. He parked under the harsh fluorescent light and walked into the tiny store. The attendant looked at him with tired eyes and nodded. "You from out of state?" the man asked casually. "Yeah," Mark replied, still shaking. "Took a bad exit back there, exit 17. The attendant froze mid-sip of coffee. His eyes narrowed slightly. "You stop your car." Mark hesitated. "Yeah, just for a minute." The man slowly set his cup down. "You see anything?" Mark nodded. Something was off. The attendant didn't smile. He looked toward the window as if expecting something to be watching. "You're not the first. For a year or so, someone parks there at night. They come in shaken, pale. Some say they saw a girl. Others say a man. Sometimes it's not even human, but it's always there, watching. Only in the mirrors." Mark felt his knees weaken. "Why mirrors?" "No one knows," the man said. "Some say it's tied to the land. Some say the spirit got stuck between dimensions and can only be seen through reflections. Whatever it is, it doesn't show up unless you're looking the wrong way." Mark spent the next hour inside the gas station, sipping burnt coffee, staring out the window. He didn't dare check his rearview mirror again when he left. He drove the next 6 hours with it tilted toward the floor, but even weeks later, safe at home. Every time he passed a mirror, he checked, just in case, and twice. He swore he saw a figure behind him, a tall, pale thing, still, watching. Savannah is the kind of city that feels haunted even during the day. Spanish moss hangs like cobwebs over cracked cobblestone streets. The air feels heavy, like it's been holding its breath for centuries, and in the quiet corners of the historic district, the silence isn't empty, it listens. Danielle Monroe had just moved into a 200-year-old townhouse along East Perry Lane, gifted by her grandmother who passed suddenly the previous winter. Danielle was a writer drawn to the romanticism of Southern Gothic charm, and this place 3 stories high, weather-worn shutters, with floors that creaked like whispers, was perfect. First few days were uneventful. Dusty sunlight streamed through warped windows and old pipes grown like sleeping beasts. She filled the bookshelves, brewed tea, and wrote late into the night. But on the 6th night, she heard something strange. Outside, not upstairs, beneath, she had just turned off the kettle when she heard it. A distinct scraping, slow and deliberate, like nails or fingertips dragging across old wood. She froze in the kitchen. It came again. SCCRRK from below her feet. She stomped once, unsure whether it was mice or her imagination. The sound stopped. She waited. Silence. Shaking her head. She brushed it off as the house settling. But that night, as she lay in bed on the 2nd floor, she heard it again. Only this time, there was whispering, not voices she could understand, just a soft, constant murmur that sounded like dozens of voices layered together, all speaking at once, just beneath the floorboards. She got up, walked barefoot to the center of the bedroom, and listened. And the moment she stilled the voices stopped. She slept with the lights on. The next day, she searched the basement. The floor was dirt-packed, rough stone walls, low ceiling, nothing unusual except a door. Not a modern door, a crawl space sealed shut with wooden beams nailed in place, old, decaying, and strangely cold to the touch. She pulled her hand back. Something about it felt wrong. Like if she opened it, something would come out that couldn't go back in. That night, the voices came again, but louder. Now they were chanting, and beneath them scratches, fast. Desperate scratches. She placed her ear to the floor. A voice, one single voice, broke through the static. It whispered her name. Donnie L. She screamed and jumped back, heart hammering. She packed a bag and left for a motel across town. The next day, she returned. The house was still, almost too still, as if it had been waiting. Danielle contacted a local historian, Eleanor Tate, who had written about Savannah's haunted architecture. Eleanor agreed to visit. They toured the house in silence. Eleanor's face grew increasingly pale. When they reached the crawl space, she stared at it for a long time. This house, she said softly, was built by a cotton baron in 1816, but there are rumors that it used to be a holding house for people before auction. Danielle felt cold bloom in her chest. They kept them underground, she asked. Yes, sometimes for weeks. Eleanor walked around the crawlspace perimeter, running her fingers over the walls. She stopped suddenly and pressed her palm flat against a section of stone. There's something here. Together they pried the section loose. Behind it was a hollow chamber about 6 feet across. Inside, laid against the wall, was a bundle of tattered cloth, a child's blanket. And beside it, bones. Small, fragile, buried in dirt. Danielle fell back, gagging. Eleanor whispered a prayer. That night, the voices didn't come. The house was dead silent for 3 days. Then, on the 4th, the scratching returned. Only now it wasn't from beneath the floor. It was from inside the walls. She heard it behind her as she cooked, as she showered, as she sat in bed. Whispers moved from room to room, always just ahead or just behind her. One night, she caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. There was someone behind her, a child, dirt-covered, hollow, eyes, mouth hanging open like a silent scream. She spun around, no one there, but the air ice cold. She tried to leave, but her car wouldn't start. Her phone wouldn't work. Her neighbors were never home. For 2 days she lived off tap water and granola bars, trapped. And then came the night she heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, from the basement stairs. She locked the door. The knob turned anyway. She pressed her back against it. The voices were chanting again, low and droning. like a funeral dirge in a language not meant for the living. And then came the thud, dot, thud, dot, like a body slamming against the door, dot, again, dot, thud, dot, she screamed. Lights flickered. Every room in the house buzzed with static, dot, then silence. The door behind her slowly creaked open, dot, no one there, dot, just the dark. She left the house that night, ran barefoot through the street, never came back. The house sits empty now, dot, but if you walk past on quiet nights, some say you can hear it whispers from the floorboards, scratches against stone, and sometimes, just sometimes, a child calling out for someone who will never come. In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, past the winding roads and thick pine forests of Iron County, there's a lake locals don't talk about much. Lake Desolation. It's not marked on every map. Small, still, and deep as death. The kind of place that swallows sound. Even the birds don't fly over it, dot. In 2019, during a September hiking trip, 26-year-old Joshua Myers and his two childhood friends, Neil and Trevor, made a decision they'd regret forever. They were staying at a rented cabin about a mile from the lake. It was Neil who found an off-trail stretch in a clearing that felt completely untouched. The water was black, smooth like glass, and unnaturally cold. Trevor joked it looked like a place where something crawls out at night. They laughed. But Joshua, D-I-D-N single quotes T-dot, because he felt something, a pressure, like the lake was aware of them. That night, as wind moaned through the trees and the old cabin creaked like brittle bones, Joshua couldn't sleep. Something pulled at him, a compulsion he couldn't shake, dot. At 3:12 a.m., barefoot and dazed, he stepped out into the cold and walked toward the lake. The others found him standing ankle deep in the water, eyes wide, staring at the center. Josh, what the hell are you doing? Neil shouted, dot. Joshua didn't answer. He didn't blink, dot. Trevor grabbed him and pulled him back to shore. His body was freezing, lips pale. He didn't resist. He just whispered, he's awake now. They wrapped him in blankets, brought him inside. He didn't speak again that night, dot. The next morning, Joshua didn't remember anything. Claimed he never left the cabin, thought they were messing with him. He was pale and irritable, and his eyes twitched when he looked at water, even the kitchen sink. That night, it got worse, dot. Neil woke up first to the sound of splashing, like someone walking in and out of the water, slow, dragging steps. He looked out the window toward the lake, saw nothing. But when he turned away, thud, a sound from the porch. He peeked through the curtain. A man stood there, dot. Wet, dot, tall, gaunt, naked from the waist up, skin pale, stretched tight like wax, hair hanging in wet clumps over his face, his eyes black, empty, and he was staring right at the window. Neil screamed, dot. By the time Trevor and Joshua ran in, the porch was empty, just wet footprints leading up to the door. Joshua stared at them, trembling. I've seen him before, he whispered. In my dreams. The next day, Trevor wanted to leave. Neil agreed, but Joshua refused. He followed me back, he said. Leaving won't help. That night, the whispers began. First under the floorboards, then in the walls. Water began, dripping from the ceiling even though it hadn't rained in days. They awoke to puddles forming in corners of the room. Trevor stepped into one and screamed it boiled his skin. Left welts shaped like hands. Neil demanded they pack up. They threw everything into their bags. But when they opened the front door, there he was, standing in the yard. Wet, still, watching. Joshua screamed and slammed the door shut. He doesn't want me to leave. They tried the back. Same thing. Wherever they turned, the figure was there, never walking, just appearing, always dripping. Always staring. Trevor grabbed a kitchen knife. We can wait him out, Neil said. But as the clock ticked past 3 a.m., the walls began to bulge as if water pressed from inside them. House groaned, floors warped. And then the screaming started. Not from outside. From underneath. A chorus of screams, gurgling and rah, as if hundreds of voices trapped below were rising with the flood. Joshua collapsed. He wants me to return, he sobbed. He let me walk out, but that was a mistake. The front door burst open. The man walked in, Water pooled beneath his feet with every step. Rotting the floor, Trevor lunged, but the moment the blade touched the figure, it turned to liquid, splashing across the wood, and behind them Joshua was walking toward the lake. Expressionless, silent. Neil and Trevor ran after him, calling, screaming. Joshua didn't stop. He waded into the lake. Waist deep. Chest deep. Then he turned, smiling for the first time in days. They never wanted me, just someone. And then he was dragged under. No splash, no struggle, just gone. Neil ran into the water, shouting, searching, but there was nothing. The lake was still again. Black glass. Trevor filed a report. Authorities searched. Dogs, divers, drones. No trace of Joshua. Just footprints leading into the lake. None coming out. And in the drone footage, only a single grainy frame showed something in the water. A pale hand reaching upward. Weeks later, Neil received a package with no return address. Inside, a single photo, the lake, and standing at the edge, Joshua, soaked, smiling, his eyes completely black. Neil burned the photo. Trevor moved to Arizona. Neither ever returned to Michigan, and the cabin's still listed for rent. But locals say if you stay there in late September, walk to the edge of Lake Desolation just after 3 a.m., you'll see a man standing waist deep in the center. Not moving. Waiting. And if you meet his eyes, you won't make it back.